Shri Guru Dinatarinam Ramananda Madhavam Shri Chaitanya Ishwaram Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swaminiti Namane Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatara. So we are studying from the second canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, and we are still in the section where Brahmaji is talking to Narada, and Narada has many interesting questions that are relevant for us. Okay, where are we? Let's see. Yeah, so Narada is asking his father to explain more about spiritual realization. So he's asking, Narada opened his eyes wide in astonishment. You mean Brahman realized people do not become sick, old, or even die? That's his question. So, Rasastali, would you like to read, or you want me to read?
I can read from where Brahma laughed.
Yeah.
Okay. Brahma laughed. Their bodies may get ill and perish, but because they are fixed in spiritual realization, freed of bodily identification, they do not experience the miseries of old age, disease, and death. They always remain undisturbed and peaceful. The great four-headed deity then began to describe the next level of spiritual consciousness. When the devotee realizes Paramatma, he sees Vishnu residing in the hearts of all living beings. At this point, his affection for the Lord is awakened, and he experiences an unlimited flow of everlasting happiness without fear of it being broken. How does one attain this realization? Asked Narada. Brahma explained that some renounce the world and dedicate themselves to studying the Vedas. Others engage in meditation. Still others remain in worldly life and hear and chant about Krishna. Those practicing mental speculation and meditation give these up once they attain Paramatma realization. On the other hand, those who reach this stage through hearing and chanting about Krishna become more enthusiastic about their practices. What is the benefit of continuing to hear and chant after attaining Paramatma realization? Oh, great benefit, dear Narada. They go on to attain Bhagwan realization, which is to become the Lord's personal associate and enter his eternal loving pastimes.
Wow.
This stage, yeah, this stage of spiritual consciousness is the ultimate spiritual attainment. Brahma explained that Bhagwan realization can only be achieved by constantly hearing about Krishna from an elevated devotee who is already at that stage. One must also repeat what he hears for the benefit of others and remain always absorbed in remembering Krishna. Without thus worshipping Bhagwan, study of the Vedas and meditation cannot bear fruit. However, worshippers who approach Krishna by such devotional practice, which is known as sadhana bhakti, do not need to study the Vedas or meditate to achieve success. The Lord is so kind that even if a devotee dies before attaining spiritual perfection, he is given the opportunity in his next life to continue his practice. Brahma concluded, My dear son, I have now described in brief the incarnations and pastimes of the Supreme Lord, creator of the manifested worlds. He is the ultimate cause of all existence. Feeling compassion for the conditioned souls, Brahma urged Narada to expand these teachings. The Lord Himself gave me this knowledge, known as the Srimad Bhagavatam. My dear Narada, you should also distribute it for the good of all. Brahma knew that anyone who, with faith and respect, regularly discussed the Srimad Bhagavatam, trying to systematically understand it, would surely enter the Lord's eternal spiritual pastimes to enjoy unlimited happiness in His loving association. Narada was deeply enlivened to share what he had heard, playing his transcendental veena and chanting Krishna's names. He took his leave from his exalted father and commenced his travels across the universe. Yeah.
Okay. Any realizations, any questions, any thoughts on this chapter? This
Mm,
enlivening conversation between father and
yeah.
son.
Mm,
Or any questions?
mm, mm.
Okay, let's continue then. Sharing the next chapter, Parikshit's questions, 8th chapter. King Parikshit expresses his conviction that hearing and chanting about Krishna is the most auspicious activity of all beings. He then begins to ask a series of questions whose answers will form the basis of the rest of Shukadeva Goswami's narrations throughout the following cantos of the Srimad Bhagavatam. In this chapter, Shukadeva answers the first questions regarding how and why the living beings become entangled in matter. So, very relevant for us
Yes.
and very crucial also because this is the basis of the rest of the Srimad Bhagavatam being spoken. Okay, somebody likes to read? Okay, Rasasali, would you like to continue reading?
Okay. Um, Parikshit sat in stunned silence, awed by the significance of what he had just heard. Brahma's instructions to Narada cemented his faith in Srimad Bhagavatam. By the light of the moon, Parikshit could see Narada with his celestial veena laid across his lap. The king wanted to ask him so many questions, but remembering the agreement the sages had made not to interrupt his conversation, he directed his questions to Shukadeva. Oh, greatly blessed Sukadeva Goswami, who are the fortunate persons whom Narada instructed in Srimad Bhagavatam? What did they tell them? O best among those who know the truth, I am convinced that Krishna possesses all wonderful potencies and that hearing about him is most auspicious for all beings. Kindly continue narrating the Srimad Bhagavatam to me so that I may fix my mind upon Krishna and thereby become free from all trace of material attachment. Turning to the others, he said, O sages, surely the Supreme Lord Krishna will quickly appear in the heart of anyone who continually hears Srimad Bhagavatam from a self-realized devotee and who seriously tries to understand these teachings. My dear friends, other methods such as cultivating knowledge, mystic yoga, and ritual worship can temporarily purify the heart, but by a slight agitation of the mind, one will again resume sense gratification. Sincerely, hearing about the glorifying Krishna is the only permanent way to cleanse the heart of material ignorance, for it enables one to realize his eternal spiritual relationship with the Lord. He thus experiences complete fulfillment, like a traveler who arrives home after a long and troubled journey. Such a fully satisfied soul will never again relinquish Krishna's shelter. Furthermore, by associating with such a devotee whose attraction for hearing and repeating the Srimad Bhagavatam has awoken, any conditioned soul can become similarly purified. Many of the sages who were previously advocates of Nyaya, Vaisheshika, Patanjali Yoga, Sankhya, or Karma Mimamsa nodded in agreement. By hearing Shukadeva, they too were feeling sublime joy. However, Parikshit saw that some of the proponents of these other paths were looking doubtful. He thought back on their objections. The adherents of Sankhya had earlier argued that the living being's entanglement in material suffering was logically inconsistent with the benevolent Supreme Lord.
Mm.
To them it was more logical that there is no God, and that the soul's entanglement with matter happens randomly. Desiring Shukadeva to address such doubts, Parikshit questioned him further. O learned Brahmana, you say that in reality we are eternal spirit soul, transcendental to this body, and of the same spiritual nature as Lord Krishna. How is it that when we become entangled with material energy and suffer, is there a reason for this? Or does it happen haphazardly, as is the opinion of some philosophers? Smiling broadly, Shukadeva said that to understand the mysteries of Krishna's creation, we must hear the Lord's own explanations. These he personally spoke to Brahma at the beginning of the first day of God's life, known as the Brahma Kalpa. On that occasion, the Lord spoke the Srimad Bhagavatam, which contains the essence of the Vedas, and delivered by Parikshit's thoughtful questions. Shukadeva was eager to instruct him. The king was surely a qualified descendant of the Pandavas, and thus able to make spiritually relevant inquiries for the good of all people. The sage said, O king, the transcendental spirit souls identify with the material body because of the influence of Lord's external energy, Atmamaya. Without being influenced by Krishna's inconceivably powerful energy, it is not possible for the spiritual soul to be entangled in matter. Parikshit cast a glance at Gautama and Idmahu, who had earlier
Okay, let's pause here. This point here, the transcendental spirit soul identifies with the material body because of the influence of the Lord's external energy, Atma Maya. Again, this is a how do you call it? Basic differentiation between Yoga Maya and Mahamaya. So, being influenced by the modes of nature and being pulled, pulled or dragged down by material desires is Yoga Maya, Mahamaya. At the same time, there is also the benefit or opposite of that, which is Yoga Maya, which is the Lord's energies, which may appear to be like illusion, but it's actually the Lord's protection. This actually we can know more when we understand the difference between Mahamaya, Yogamaya, and how Yogamaya is the sister of Krishna who's always trying to push us more towards Krishna. So one is pushing us in a unfavorable or unpleasant way by dragging us down, and the other is pushing us in a favorable way. And something else I wanted to make a point here.
Lord's external energy is Atma Maya, that is Yog Maya.
No, yeah. See, the Lord's external energy is Atma Maya, which is also known as Mahamaya, and the Lord's internal energy, however, is Yoga Maya. The Yoga Maya is favorable, like protective. It's more, when she arranges things, like for example, I'll give you an example. You go to a government office and somehow or another you're missing an important paper. But somehow, due to some illusory thing, the officer doesn't even ask you about that paper. Then you walk out thinking, how was that even possible? And then the answer is it's Yoga Maya of Krishna. But then when we get illusion in ways which drag us down, that is like, okay, Krishna's external energy. Yes, it's dragging us down, pulling us into illusion. But always remember that there will always be coming up as well, because that's the way Krishna does things. He pulls us up. There is nothing as such as always. There's nothing like eternal hell. There's nothing like eternal condemnation, as we might have heard in some other.
Because we are conditioned soul, so it's the chances of falling is always there.
It's always there, yeah. But
Yes.
it's not a loss, as Krishna says. Every little progress you make, you are, you're going to get. You keep going up, up, up. There is, yes, we may come down, but still, Krishna will never leave forget our devotional service. Yes. I mean, it's hope giving, because usually we get stuck thinking about, oh, I made this mistake, I'm eternally condemned. So, that kind of thinking we have, but, we need to grow up.
Yes.
We need to understand the heart of the Lord. We need to understand Krishna's mind and mood. He's not going to ever, he's incapable of rejecting us. That's the only thing he's incapable of rejecting us. You see how sweet our Lord is.
Yes, very.
Anything else? I cannot see who is here because when I'm sharing screen, I don't know. Okay, it's only you and me. That's why. Okay. That's why we are enjoying this reading. Okay, let us continue a little bit more.
Yes.
I think here we stop, right? How is it that we become entangled with the material energy and suffer? Should I continue a little bit?
Yes, yes, yes.
Is there a reason for this, or does it happen haphazardly, as is the opinion of some philosophers? Smiling broadly, Shukdeva said that to understand the mysteries of Krishna's creation, we must hear the Lord's own explanations. These he personally spoke to Brahma at the beginning of the first day of the God's life, known as the Brahma Kalpa. On that occasion, the Lord spoke the Srimad Bhagavatam, which contains the essence of the Vedas. Enlivened by Parikshit's thoughtful question, Shukadeva was eager to instruct him. The king was surely a qualified descendant of the Pandavas, and as able to make spiritually relevant inquiries for the good of all people. The sage said, O king, the transcendental spirit souls identify with the material body because of the influence of the Lord's energy, external energy. Okay. The king, the transcendental spirit soul, which, that's like our identity is clear, it's set. We are transcendental spirit souls. That's our actual or original identity. And then when we identify with this material body, which is a conditioning, right? And when we identify because of the Lord's external influence, Atma Maya, without being, because of the influence of the Lord's external energy, Atma Maya. So the reason for us to identify with this material body is also also in Krishna's control. It's also Krishna's energies. Actually, this is very interesting, right? Think about it. Like, why would he do that? Why? No, there was one question. I went on a TV show. Somebody asked, if there is Vaikuntha, Goloka, eternal spiritual world, and all this, why Krishna created this world, and why did he put us in this world full of miseries and all this conditioning? Why couldn't we just be in Goloka, perfectly happy, serving the Lord? It's because of this free will. Because of that free will, we want to actually experience freedom of some sort. We want to enjoy separately from the Lord. And actually, there is no there is no happiness and there is no enjoyment, actual enjoyment separately from the Lord. So Krishna says, experience it for yourself. When the kid goes, I want this, I want this, I want this toy, and without this toy, I'm going to be unhappy. I want this, I want this, I want this. And we are like, no, you don't need it, you don't need it. But then finally, the parent is like, okay, you want to experience, get it. And then after 2 days, the kid doesn't even look at it, or or that toy didn't give him the happiness that he was expecting and dreaming about, or things like that. Sometimes the kid wants to, I want to go there, I want to go there. No, it's not good for you, it's dangerous for you. No, I want to go there. Okay, the parents give some freedom, the kid goes, trips and falls, and then it has to learn by itself. I have a friend whose kid doesn't like to eat healthy food, and she kept eating unhealthy food. She wouldn't eat otherwise. She would not eat healthy stuff. She would just eat cookies and the things that would really like hurt her tummy at night. So every night she would wake up crying with pain, and like that and like that. And then now eventually the girl is like 7 years old, and she came to a point like now that she's drinking cow urine and taking all those Ayurvedic medical medicines which are really bitter, etc., etc. And the mother is like shocked, like, wow, I never thought my daughter would even take these medicines. But that pain prepared her to understand that she needed some help, and it wasn't working. The way she was eating was just not working for her, and she was suffering from pain every night, and that pain reminded her that the way she was doing things was wrong, and she needed a new way. And then she became willing. So similarly, Krishna also gives us, okay, you want to eat junk, okay, eat junk, and one day you'll realize that it's not good for you, and you're going to like come back for the medicine. So Krishna is waiting, right? So similarly, he created this world so that we can experience
Because we learn from our own mistakes.
yeah, I hope we learn. There are three types of people, right? One who learn by hearing, one who learn by experiencing, and the third who never learn.
Never learn.
So at least we should be in the second category. We experience and then we learn. Like this kid, at least she experienced and she learned. She experienced that pain. She experienced that it's not working. And she learned that, okay, I need these medicines because otherwise, without these medicines, I'll be in pain. And that pain is a memory, is a remembrance of what it means if you're doing the same thing over and over again. So for us too, right? But for us, we forget. We forgot last lifetime how much we suffered. So this lifetime again, we are investing. Oh, this relationship may give me happiness. Maybe this new toy, new toy, or a new achievement will give me satisfaction and fulfillment. So we keep chasing after that carrot, of the donkey in the front, or what is it called? Chasing the dog's tail, right?
Yes,
Running
yes.
after the dog's tail. Yeah. So without being influenced by Krishna's inconceivably powerful energy, it is not possible for the spiritual soul to become entangled in matter. So it's not that we are not independent from the Lord. Even this material world is creation of the Lord, and we are placed here by His will and it's by His inconceivable power to correct us, to resurrect us, to transform us, make us make us into the best version of ourselves. Because when the kid is not ready to eat the healthy food or take the medicine, how much ever we force, it's not going to work. But when you can only take the horse till the water, you cannot make it drink. So we cannot be forced to give our lives to Krishna or to surrender. It has to come naturally, and we need patience for that. We can't force ourselves also. Sometimes other people tell us, do this, do this, do this, do this, but we may not be convinced, and it may take us more time until Krishna allows us. So even a blade of grass doesn't move without Krishna's consent. Parikshit cast a glance at Gautama and Idmabahu, who had earlier advocated Nyaya and Sankhya. Their brows were furrowed. He knew they found Shukadeva's explanation difficult to accept. He decided to probe deeper. This is another thing. I do like astrological consultations, and when people come, they go back they go back, they're like, I find it so difficult to digest, some of the lessons I'm supposed to learn. People don't find it easy. Of course, I'm not like the conventional astrologers who will say this will happen, the good time is coming, bad time coming. I don't focus on that. I just say this is your lesson and this is where you're stuck. This is where your spiritual progress is stuck. So people are like, oh, I can't digest this, I don't like this. One parent had issue with the kid, and I was explaining how there was previous life karma with this kid, and serving this kid would really be devotional service in her case. Some parents are very attached to kids too much, and that's not good for them. Some other parents, they have actually the karma that it's really their service and path for their advancement by taking care of kids. And the parent just didn't like it. They didn't like the idea because they actually just wanted to go and do service outside. But the house is a chaos and the kid is a chaos. So we were discussing how difficult it can be to hear these lessons and how difficult it is to change our path of karma. It's not easy. Even if we get the instruction, this is what you're supposed to do, we may just not be ready, So this is like material mind. Even if it can happen to these sages, right? Even Shukadeva Goswami, okay? Like imagine Shukadeva Goswami. If you find it difficult to be convinced by Shukadeva Goswami, who else in this entire universe can convince you? Yeah, that's our position. We have a spiritual master, we have Srila Prabhupada convincing us, still we find it difficult.
Yeah, we are tied with the ropes of this.
Yeah, material modes and material desires, karma. Shukadeva explained that Krishna wants all souls to remain in pure consciousness as his eternal loving servants. See, this word servants, it sounds like, slaves, so in this material world, servant is like something very low grade like that. But actually, Dasya Rasa is one of the very deep rasas. When we become Krishnas in such a deep way of every breath of ours is thinking of serving him, and then he's actually embracing us. And I'm picturing this image of Ramachandra embracing Hanuman. So Dasya Rasa is actually very, very sweet. So we usually think, I don't want to be servant. I don't want to be eternally a servant. I want to be a king. I want to be this. I want to be that. But Jiver Swarup Koi Krishna and Nityadas, our eternal identity is to be servant of Krishna. That's called surrender. That's called surrender. Surrender to the absolute realities.
If we are in Krishna consciousness, we have to accept we are the eternal servants of Krishna. Then only we can progress.
Yeah. Yeah. If here also we come and try to become the master, instead of becoming dasa, 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 no dasa, we want to be bossa, 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 no bossa. So servant is not like eternal loving servants. Is not servant is like when we become Krishnas. And Krishna kind of completely accepts us. It's not the servant of this material world, like we're doing it with just because we have to. It's not due to obligation, it's because of love. It's a different dimension. However, because they have a little independence, some of them are not willing to serve Krishna, desiring instead to be his equal. Thus, Krishna puts them into a dream-like condition where they can imagine this to be true. And imagine this to be true and realize that there is no happiness, right? Shukadeva gave an analogy. A child may cry because he wants to grasp the moon. To satisfy the child, the loving parent gives him a mirror in which the moon is reflected. Thinking he now has the moon, the child becomes pacified. Similarly, the childish souls cry because they want to be independent enjoyers and controllers like the Supreme Lord. To pacify them, Krishna kindly puts them in this reflected reality, the material world. When the living beings become frustrated trying to enjoy this illusion, he performs penance to merge with the Lord, who sanctions this also. Nevertheless, in both instances, the living being is in a dreaming state. These delusions continue until the soul wakes up to the reality that he is the subordinate part and parcel of Krishna. In his pure consciousness, the living entity serves the Lord in transcendental love. Many of the assembled sages murmured appreciatively on hearing Shukadeva's explanation. Some, however, remained doubtful. Since all living beings are originally equally situated as the Lord's eternal servants, why do they attain so many different types of bodies when they enter the material universe? Some enjoying heavenly pleasures and others suffering hellish pains. Sensing their confusion, Shukadeva explained that the living beings can associate with any of the three modes of nature. According to their choices, they receive different types of bodies. As long as the living being thinks in terms of I and mine, he is forced to continually accept different material bodies. The sage said that these two misconceptions of life, I and mine, manifest in two classes of people. I remember this bhajan. ನಾನು ನನ್ನದು ಎಂಬ ನರಕದೊಳಗೆ ಬಿದ್ದು ನಾನು ನನ್ನದು ಎಂಬ ನರಕದೊಳಗೆ ಬಿದ್ದು ನೀನೇ ಗತಿ ಎಂದು ನಂಬಿದನು ದಾಸನ ಮೇಲೆ ಇನ್ನು ದಯ ಬಾರದೆ ದಾಸನ ಶಯನ ಶ್ರೀ ಪರಮ ಪುರುಷ ಹರಿಯೇ. It says Nanu Nannadu, I and mine. This I and mine is like the path to hell. And I'm rotting in this hell, my dear Lord. Please pick me up. Please pick me up. And you have my only shelter. Nobody else can save me from this hell of me and mine. And then I like to add like I am yours, like me and mine. Actually, you said that I'm yours. Like Krishna says, you are mine. Mama Ivam Sho Jiva Loke. So still, I'm still separating and thinking me and mine. That's why I have all these miseries, right? Okay, we can stop here at me and mine. I and mine. We'll study tomorrow from the sage said these two misconceptions of life we can study
I
from tomorrow.
requested two classes of people. Yes, we can start.
Yeah,
Mm.
yeah, we'll study that tomorrow. Thank you so much, Rasastali,
Thank you
for
so much. Thank you. It was
this.
a lovely class. Thank you.
It was nice to study
I
Bhagavatam with you. Thank you. Have a good day.